Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Buckeye Breakdown. Owen Smith, Matthew Warner here after a top 5 win for the Buckeyes on the road. We are going to throw out the episode from last week, maybe parts of it. There was like a purge section of it that
it was off the record.
off the record anyways.
I was going to say it was off the record, so we don't need to throw it out. It was completely off the record.
It was already off. So,
yeah.
How are you feeling?
Good. You and I shared some pretty similar nervousness about this game. It kind of felt like a make or break. Could Ohio State get in with 2 losses? Sure. But I think the program, the fans desperately needed this. Ryan Day needed this. Wasn't pretty, but the job got done on the road in a really tough environment after a really bad start. I feel good. Buckeye fans should feel good about that win, and nobody should tell them that they should feel any different about it. So I feel good. How are you feeling?
I feel pretty great. I mean, again, was at a low point last week and after the Nebraska game, and I think it could have been. This could be a turning point, not only in this season, but also just the next couple of years, if not next 5-10 years of Ohio State football, where it's like if Ryan Day loses another top 5 matchup, it very much could have been the Woody versus the world. Now it feels like the fan base is on the side, and Ryan Day bought himself some more time, or more respect, whatever it may be. Because I just think it would have been you have IU, you have the team up north, you have those opportunities, but this was the last opportunity in the regular season to buy back some of that, get back more respect. So I think it was pivotal, right? I mean, we could have been looking at. I made a joke in one of our group chats of honestly, I think Ryan Day will win a national championship as a head coach. This might determine if it's for Ohio State or for Florida or whoever. Yeah. So either way, I'm feeling pretty good. I think it's always good to come on a Saturday where a Georgia team also ended up winning by 2 scores, but that was a close game with Florida, which not a great team, and just reminds you that there truly isn't just a dominant team, and the number 1 team in the nation and probably on the college football playoff rankings is the team that we lost to by 1 on the road.
Yeah. Keep going back to by 1 on the road. Yeah.
So anyways, feeling pretty good. So plenty to talk about. I mean, I think that the main concern, at least from a player standpoint, personnel standpoint, heading into the game was the offensive line. Walking out of that, Donovan Jackson ended up being the left tackle. They put in Hinsman at left guard. I guess I didn't even think about the familiarity between those two, being, Jackson being on his left side all of last year. Just didn't even think about that when we were planning for the Penn State game. But either way, do you think that the offensive line is fixed? Are you concerned about anything? Are we at the best resolution that we're going to get for the rest of this season?
I think that's where I'm at. I think the line that was out there on Saturday proved that they can hold their own against elite rushes. I wouldn't say it's fixed. I mean, it's not the same offensive line that we had out there with Simmons. I don't think we feel as good about it. But you threw Donovan Jackson into a really difficult matchup. You put Carson Hinsman in at left guard, who hadn't played a ton all year in that spot, and it looked good. I think, there's obviously weaknesses. The couple times that Jackson was kind of matched up one-on-one and needed to win a rep without help, Abdul Carter was in the backfield. I mean, and he was back there quick. You can tell there's definitely a lack of speed and kind of like controlling that edge a little bit if they've got somebody on the other side of the ball that they can get off really quick. But for the most part, it looked pretty good. And everybody, I think rightfully so, is excited about that last final drive. Dude. The Buckeyes get the ball, and in that spot, like maybe I'm wrong. I would have to go back and look, but in that spot, that has felt like an area where the Buckeyes get the ball back and they chew 2 minutes and 30 seconds off the clock, and then they tell their defense, hey, thanks for getting that stop.
Yeah.
Please go do it again.
Yes.
This time it was just, go be a man, go win your fights. Quinshon ran the ball very well, and it was weird. There was like this, I don't think we feel nearly as good about that win if we punt the ball with 2 minutes left and then get a stop on defense as we do with getting it back, running it down their throat. They don't even get a chance. Will Howard gets the big first down, the couple big first downs on his legs. Like, I think that is a big part of the reason that you and I and Buckeye fans are really excited, because it was championship football of Ryan Day's talked about it all year. Don't leave a doubt. Leave no doubts. They left no doubt. They controlled it, shut out a game on the road. So, like, O-line, I wouldn't say is fixed, but man, they proved that they've got the stones to go make big plays, control the line, win the trenches, and put the Buckeyes in a really good chance to win day in and day out. So I feel 10 times better. I'm sure you feel the same.
Yeah, I think you hit on everything. Again, a win is a win, but to your point, like, the thing that will never show up on the 20-13 or the scoreboard is that drive, right? Like that's the context that matters. It separates the number 2 team from the number 3 team when it comes down to rankings and all of that, and moments to build on. Like, don't rely on you don't rely on the defense in that situation. Like, we could have, because the defense had a hell of a performance.
No kidding.
Like, also it's better to have the ball in your hands.
I think it was Ari Wasserman. Like, he tweeted when the Buckeyes got the ball back on the 1 yard line, like, imagine if Ohio State just runs this out. Like, imagine the message it sends. And I think it's like the message was sent and it landed. And, like, a lot of people are out there discrediting, I shouldn't say discrediting, but it's the typical, was Penn State really that good? Is it a James Franklin problem? I mean, the Buckeyes just played pretty damn good on the defensive side of the ball. Offensive side of the ball, they were a fumble out of the end zone away from, being up 10 and kind of running away with it. And so, like, I don't know what more you would want as far as just a tough, gritty win. I think we did our job, and you walk out of Happy Valley with a 7-point win. You cover the spread. You beat the number 3 team in the country. Like, you did your job. Just be happy about it. Like, that's where I'm at now. And we've got, a couple of weeks before another really big matchup that will kind of determine the Buckeyes' destiny as far as, are we playing in Indianapolis? Are we, are we in a good spot to have a decent seat in the college football playoff?
Agreed. Yeah. No, so offensive line, not fixed, but manageable, and, like, has something to build on. Defense looks good. We can get to that, but you did point out something, and it kind of leads directly into it, is Will Howard. 2 critical mistakes. The only score, or only touchdown, I should say, for Penn State happened on a pick 6 early in a game. And then, of course, like, again, could have been a pivotal moment in the game where you go up 21-10 like that. We could be looking at a 28-10 victory, because that could have just been a backbreaking move there too.
Yeah.
Two critical mistakes. I think, again, that's a 14-point difference in the game, all things considered. So with that being said, is your confidence level any different in Will Howard after this past weekend, heading into the rest of the season and national championship and all the
Yeah.
things that are ahead of us?
I think I've stayed pretty even on Will Howard didn't take this big jump in my mind. He didn't take this big regression. The interception was terrible. Will Howard knows the interception was terrible. You and I talked about it before the game. If Penn State wants to have a chance to win this game, I think it's going to have to be Will Howard pressing a little bit and enforcing things that aren't there. And, it happened. It happened early. And I think you and I were a little worried that the wheels might fall off of this really quickly. You're in a hostile environment that's not going to get quieter. But the credit that I'll give to Will Howard is this is now twice that we've seen in these big environments, the response, you make a bonehead play, you make a mistake. How do you respond to it? The next drive, Chip Kelly did some wonders in getting the run game going, scheming guys open, and Will Howard made a big throw. So it's I think he's continued to show that he is a very good quarterback. He is mistake prone, but I'm not looking at him as a guy. If we find ourselves in Indianapolis, of Will Howard's going to get us beat. If we find ourselves in a national championship, I'm not thinking Will Howard's going to be the reason we lose a game. And oftentimes I've felt like that last year. So no, I still feel good. The fumble out of bounds. One, I hate the rule just in general.
It's interesting.
I have PTSD from the Browns almost beating Chiefs in the playoffs when Higgins got targeted, was not called, and fumbled it out of the back of the end zone. Chiefs score, whatever. But that one, I'm far less upset about that one than I am the pick six. The pick six was just dumb. The Will Howard fumble out of the back of the end zone is he sees pay dirt a little bit. I know you got to secure the ball, but he's an inch away and probably thinking he's got six. But it is what it is. Speaking of that play, I'm just going to bring it up now. It sucks that we didn't score, because what you would have seen on replay 1,000 times was the Travion Henderson block on the edge where he just flattened a guy to get Will Howard the freedom to make that run. Yeah. But no, I feel good about Will. What are your? I think you might be a little more skeptical on Will Howard than I am.
Depends. I still see him as a guy that I think he's still able to get things done. I feel like he's just a guy that's going to find a way, right? He doesn't. I don't think that he's going to give up and get down and out after these things. But I also think he's still the guy that is susceptible to those mistakes. And when the margins are thin,
maybe it is a bad thing, but he does seem to have a very short-term memory. He threw a pick six and he was back on the field and was just all right, I'll go sling it around again. And, threw a nice ball. And
I said, it's a good trade. Veteran presence, right? Yeah, that's the benefit of having a guy at that experience level versus a Julian Sand throws a pick six in that type of environment. It's he's kind of got to figure, that's the first time he's experienced that versus this guy's had, 4 years of mistakes. And
I think you can tell a little bit the coaching staff trusts him as well. Mm-hmm. I remember times last year where it was a pick was thrown and then we came out and it was two very conservative, predictable runs. And then it's 3rd and 8 and we throw it 2 yards short of the first down marker and we're punting. This year, it kind of feels okay, you made a mistake, go make up for it. Go march down the field and score. I think there's a confidence in the offense. There's a confidence in Will Howard and in the weapons that we have that he does seem to just bring an edge, and I think the leadership too. Like I think the guys in the locker room respect the hell out of Will Howard and believe in him as much as Will Howard believes in himself. So like when he makes those mistakes, 10-0 didn't feel like this insurmountable mountain that we had to climb. It was just like, all right, we're down. Let's go get it back, and they did that. So, no, I still feel good about Will Howard. I would like to have 20 more than 20 points on the board when there were opportunities out there to get that. But like I said, you go on the road in that environment and you come out with a 7-point win. I'm happy. I was happy with a 1-point win, no matter the circumstances. 7-point win, pretty comfortably felt good.
Yeah, so final point on Howard is like when it seems like the Buckeyes can win a game even if the quarterback's not playing a game, but can Will overcome the defense and the run game
not working.
So there, right? Like, and that's a tough ask to put on any quarterback. But there are some quarterbacks that can at least keep you in the game. CJ Stroud, Georgia game, right? Like, again, we're talking about the number 2 overall pick in the NFL draft versus a guy that's probably a day 2, day 3 guy next year. So it's a difficult comparison, but yeah, it's when all things are humming and he's not, I think everything's okay. When it's the other way, it's like, well, I think him playing the A game and the others not, we could be in for some trouble. But either way, I think I'll say this. This is the best option. It's not that I'm not calling for Devin Brown. I'm not calling for saying.
Man, the texts I had on my phone when it was 10-0 from just all kinds of different Buckeye fans of like, it's Devin Brown time. It's Julian. No. I'm like, guys, what are we talking about here? Like, it is really funny because coming off of the Nebraska and then that like really bad start, it was like people's minds were already seasons over. We're thinking about like who's the next guy, and so a big credit to Will Howard, to Chip Kelly, Ryan Day, keeping guys focused, and then getting the ship back on the right path. So I think that's one of the biggest things. Like I said, the final drive, and then the like not hitting the panic button when things got ugly early. Those are 2 good indicators of like a championship football team. And I think you and I are probably back in that mindset now, where last week I think we had some pretty big concerns that was a reality. Yeah.
Sorry, I was dealing with something else. Sorry.
Did they just call Pennsylvania? Is that?
They just called Pennsylvania. Sorry. No, got a distraction there. But either way, carry on. Sorry.
Oh no.
This is podcasting 101 either way.
No. You're all good. The other part of this game, the defense was very good. And I think the defense was. I had a buddy that was texting me and kind of asked me. He said, "I missed the first drive. What happened?" And I said, "I think the defense did what they thought was going to happen, and that was Drew Aller's not going to run. He's on a hobbled leg." And I told him, I was like, if that's their game plan, if their game plan is we're going to trust Drew Aller to go get 6 yards on a bum knee, I was like, we're fine. I'm not super concerned. They marched down, got the field goal. From that point on, it felt like everything fell apart for Penn State offensively and what they were trying to do. There was just nothing easy for the Buckeyes' benefit. The refs let them play very physical. Yes. I was shocked at some of the like no calls, like the Jeremiah Smith offensive PI against Oregon would have looked laughable in this game just because of how aggressive they were letting corners and receivers play. The defense just showed up in a really big way, and obviously it culminated with the stop on the 1 yard line.
Which I'm curious because like play devil's advocate slightly. I know it's a I hate the bend don't break stuff, but like that is kind of there is some of that mentality with this defense. But you know, in some ways, two big stops at the 1 yard line, or in that area. One of them being a pick that was kind of weird. Like there is a scenario where those both are scores.
Oh, I know. There's a Penn State podcast going on right now of, man, we should have won that game by 7. Right. I mean, we didn't score on the 1 yard line twice. Yeah. Like that's a conversation happening on their end. But I don't want to take away from that. I mean, it's hard. It's hard to get those stops in that area, and we've had a lot of issues with the bend don't break. And then it breaks in the fourth quarter. It didn't break this time. They came up with huge plays, and it was. I mean, watching that final drive. I mean, one, if you're James Franklin in Penn State, what are you doing? You run basically the same play 3 times, and all 3 times it made it, and then you throw a terribly mismanaged possession from their part. But Ohio State made big plays.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was that's the James Franklin element, or Colton Nicky's the offensive coordinator, but yeah, I was a little shocked by that, the fact that they didn't try to go to their best weapon or anything like that. Either way, no, I mean that's how big top 5 matchups go, right? Like it is. We are talking about the best football teams in college football, and someone has to gain the edge, and it is perfectly normal to be scored on. I mean, we're only a couple weeks removed from it being a 32-31 game, right? Where we only gave up, again, 0 touchdowns, so that's just kind of how things go. But either way, I'm extremely proud. Curious on your thoughts on it. Did you get the impression that the defensive line was almost operating again? There's like the one like kind of jack position or whatever they call it that still is. There's still a 4-man front, but the rotation and just seemed like things were a little more in sync with the overall defense. Did you get that impression? Because that was another concern.
Yeah,
heading into it,
and there was a good rotation. I mean, you look at the final drive, like we get scored on if Caden McDonald doesn't just blow up their center and send him 2 yards into the backfield. The left guard can't one thing I didn't see in real time. You go back and watch it and you're like, holy crap, like he just moves the guy. Yeah. It takes him completely out of what they want to do. Yep. You had guys like Canoe and Kenyatta Jackson, Ty Hamilton, Curry, like they were on the field quite a bit, and it just felt like there were fresher legs, bigger plays in areas where it felt like, man, we've got 4 guys that have been out there for 45 snaps, and like they look like they're tired. I didn't feel that way. I didn't feel that way. I thought the defense was sound. I thought we missed tackles early. It feels sometimes like Jack Sawyer and JTT are rushing the quarterback like it's a practice and he has a red jersey on.
Yeah.
Like they're back there and then they get there and they're like, oh shit, I can't hit him.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, like the QB, it's so those kinds of things I would like to see cleaned up. Like I would like to see JT get around the edge, and instead of it being like, he gets the pressure and makes him uncomfortable, like he just gets a huge hit on the quarterback. And I don't think we've seen that consistently enough from Jack and JTT, but no, defense felt good. They felt fresh. They dominated the game basically from, after the first possession. I thought they did basically anything they wanted to. And like you said, they felt like they were a little bit more synced up, and that's probably coming off of the Nebraska Ryan Day's kind of making the comments of like, well, or Jim Knowles was making the comment of like, well, Larry's got his guys. I trust in Larry to do what he does, which is basically him saying like, I'm not controlling it. So if you've got issues with it, talk
Yeah.
to that guy.
Yeah.
And it felt like they had a little bit more, cohesiveness on that front four and the back seven.
Well, that's what I mean. It just, I think, kind of moving into the next topic is I think play calling on both sides of the ball and just coaching in general. It's like, again, it felt like a team that was ready to go win a top 5 matchup.
Yeah.
Right. That was this is the play calling and the scheme and all of it from Knowles and Kelly, and clearly, Ryan Day has an influence now on both sides of the ball. That just felt. It all felt like everybody was in sync. It wasn't just we're going to have our guys beat your guys. Like there was actual some thought into it. And that's been the difference in some of these games. That's, some of the play calls and things going, coaching decisions that went on in Oregon ultimately led to that loss. And this one just, again, more of a feel thing than anything. As a fan watching it, just felt like we were more in tune with like what this team actually should be.
From the defensive side, the pressures that we got, like the back-to-back sacks, were very creative, but it also, like, if you go look in the secondary, there wasn't a ton of like gaps. So it's not like we sent the house and if the QB gets it out of his hands right away, like it felt more like guys were winning their one-on-ones, allowing for the pass rusher to actually get home. Like everything felt pretty consistent there. And then on the offensive side of the ball, one of the things that I think got me really excited, it's felt like in years past, it has been, okay, we need a really big play. Where's Marv?
Yeah.
Where's Jeremiah Smith? Like, that's kind of what it's felt like. Mm-hmm. You get a huge score from Brandon Ennis. You have the awesome, absolutely massive play from Jelani Thurman that I think,
oh my God,
that it was a 3-second play, but it felt like the ball was being bobbled for an eternity. But like you saw guys just making plays that take the pressure off of like a Jeremiah Smith or an Ibuka to have to do, all of the things. So like those things are kind of exciting too, because, Brandon Ennis hasn't been heavily involved in the offensive game plan, so far. You see him go out, he made 2 big catches. Like, he had a pretty good role in that game. Gives you a little bit more, confidence in what we're doing. Those things to me are exciting. So like you said, the offensive play calling, defensive play calling, I thought was really good. I think my new, like the beginning of the year, we were talking about how excited we were for like the RPO. Will Howard kind of looks like he's running.
Yes.
And then he makes the throw. I think my new favorite is like the quick speed option that they had like no answer for. They didn't really know what to do. I think it's the first time we've seen it really all year.
I think so. Yeah.
And I think there's another version of that where it is kind of like an RPO where you've got Jeremiah Smith on like a quick slant. And if it's there, like you fake the pitch and throw a quick dot. Like, that kind of stuff's exciting to see Chip getting a little bit more creative. I think that's also, a way for Chip to help out the offensive line, like get Jeremiah Smith out on the edge where he's not, you don't have to set the edge on a block. He's just going to get there with the speed. Or not Jeremiah Smith, Quinshon Judkins. But yeah, so that kind of stuff was exciting.
Yeah, and I think this is a very obvious statement to make, but it's like we have the talent. I truly think that the difference has been the coaching and, what just even drive to drive, but also kind of game to game. Like just the coaching is the play calling and all of that has made the difference. And again, maybe a very obvious statement, but that's why maybe the Nebraska game didn't feel as good because of some of the coaching decisions that were made during the week, aka Zen being at left tackle. It's just like the little things. So it's like, all right, build off of this. Like, let's not forget what happened in this game and the preparation for the game on both sides of the ball. Whatever you guys were doing through that week, like, don't change it up because again, there's a couple more challenges ahead and there's a national championship to go win. So yeah, very excited to build off of this and get more of those guys that we've known about, the Brandon Ennis, the Kenyatta Jacksons, the Caden Curry, the guys that have kind of been buried because of all the returning, seniors or also incoming freshmen. It's like, let's use those weapons too. Let's keep people fresh. Let's get creative with them.
The guys that return, like they're fresher. They have they're, they don't have to just wear down a guy for 4 quarters. It's like you can throw these really talented bodies out there and make things happen. So,
that's why you're Ohio State, man. That's why you are constantly in the top. Like, use the talent. You get the top 5 talent every freaking year. Like, let's not let it sit until it's time for them to start. Like, let's utilize these guys. But, okay. How do you? I think we were a little iffy, but now like overall national championship odds, Big Ten, rest of the season, IU is kind of the biggest challenge left sitting here on November 5th. But how do you feel kind of on the outlook of the rest of the season? Are we natty or bust? Like, where are we at? Where are we at in your mind?
Yeah, I think it still has to be that. I think the talent is too good. You now look at our 2 biggest games of the year. Obviously, the Oregon loss being super close, the Penn State like on the road. and that team is capable in a neutral environment of beating, I think, anybody. The SEC has kind of been like this iffy, who the hell's good, who the hell's not. The ACC, like, we don't really know a ton about. So, like, I think if you're a betting person and you're not a Buckeye fan, you're probably thinking Ohio State's one of the top 4 teams in the country as far as odds to go win a national championship. I still think there's a lot to figure out. Like I said, like, the offensive line isn't fixed. There were a lot of issues. Like, we've bragged a ton about Donovan Jackson. He graded out, like, PFF wise, as the worst offensive lineman.
Like, for what it's worth, though, he did grade out as a champion according to the podcast text feed that's coming through while we talk.
But so, I mean, which
internally they loved it, but yes, externally PFF did have him graded pretty low.
Yeah, but like I said, so it's also his first game in that position against probably a top 15 pick come April.
Yeah,
like, so I'm not saying that he didn't play well given the circumstances. So I think that's something you continue to improve upon. I think there's also, like, we've been kind of joking about this throughout the year, but like, it's a real reality where we are now going to have to play a top 6, top 7 IU team here in 3 weeks before the big game. Like, I remember us talking
before.
Yeah, I remember us talking at the beginning of the year. It's like, okay, well, you play Penn State, and then you kind of have like 3 weeks of who gives a shit games before Michigan. And now we're like, we got to go. Like, we have to beat IU, and we're significantly less concerned about Michigan this year. Like,
I know. So let me ask you this: is the game going to be a trap game?
No.
Okay, it's right between. I mean, you're staring down the barrel of IU and Oregon. I know it's the game. I kind of say that in jest, but it is like a little like, oh shit.
These guys that came back, they came back to win a national championship, but a lot of them, I think, also came back because they don't want to be some of the only Buckeyes to come through the program and never beat Michigan. So, like, I think you're going to come off of what I am hoping is going to be a very big win against IU. And then it's going to be, let's go take care of business. Let's get this monkey off of our back. And like, I think they're going to be more in the mindset of, let's not just beat them. Let's run them off the field and, kind of remind them that, this shit still runs through us.
For sure.
So I'm not as concerned about that being like a trap game. I know people are going to be excited about the potential rematch of, Ohio State, Oregon, in Indianapolis, which is probably going to feel more like a home game for Ohio State.
Oh my God. Yeah.
So Yeah, I'm not as concerned about that. But I am concerned about IU. I've
Yeah.
kind of we joked about it for a while, but now they kind of have just this like team of destiny feel.
Well, they have a lot of doubters too, right? Because it's
Yeah,
like they're sitting here. They don't have, expectations are low. They've already exceeded expectations. They could lose the next 3 games, and they're way above what
yeah,
anybody thought.
yep,
But they also have like we still got something to prove because everyone's saying we haven't beat anybody.
yep,
Everyone's downgrading the wins over Nebraska or Michigan State or whoever. They have a challenge, maybe a challenge this week with
it's their.
Michigan, but
I think it's the
it's their
best football
toughest
team
game.
they played against.
Yeah,
Like,
for sure.
and that's kind of crazy to say. It's also crazy to think that Michigan could be looking at 5 losses. Like
I know.
at the end of this week,
I
we
love it.
talked about the line at the beginning of the year, and we were like, man, I'm not really seeing a world where they don't win 9 games. Like we looked at the schedule, and then now we're sitting here. we feel I think pretty good that they're going to probably have at least 5, maybe 6 losses at the end of the year.
Feels
My
great.
my my take is that Michigan wins this weekend, and it sucks because
Oh,
I want it to be undefeated IU, undefeated Ohio State. That's my hope. I think
I don't know. I don't think I care
eventually
about that.
it's going to I'm more so thinking like name a good defense that IU's played against this year.
Yeah, well, can't. I
Yeah,
mean,
that's what I'm saying. Like,
God, they scared. Dude, I'm fucking. They scare me though because I forgot they have a bye week too after Michigan.
yeah,
So all energy from
yeah.
Cincinnati is purely on the big bad wolf.
Regardless of whether they win next week or not, that's still going to be a massive game. Like, they're still going to be a good football team. They're still going to be ranked. Like, I'm certainly not saying that it isn't going to be a big matchup here in 3 weeks, but I do think they lose this week. But
let's hope so. Let's hope that some of their flaws are at least exposed.
yeah,
Again, there hasn't been many opportunities for any close games, right? Like they've
yeah,
all been blowouts. So
yeah,
oh boy. Okay. Well, yeah. I mean that's the. I mean we're like they're ranked 8. They're have potential depending on how this game goes. They could be even higher ranked, but it's going to be at home for the Buckeyes. And the other side of it is that the Buckeyes have Purdue and Northwestern the next 2 weeks. So
yep.
don't want to get ahead of yourselves, but I think you also have plenty of time to prepare for IU as well. So,
Yeah. I mean, yeah. If one thing is certain, I don't have any concern about Purdue.
yes.
Now, Northwestern, like coming out and laying an egg because you're looking forward to an IU game, that concerns me a little bit more. But still, I don't think Northwestern's any good. Purdue is as bad as it comes. The spread sitting at 37.5, which I don't really remember the last time the Buckeyes have been favored by 37.5 in a conference game. Like that's an insane amount of points. So we'll see there. I mean, we could do offensive and defensive MVPs, but what would you like to see Ohio State do against Purdue? Like, is there a certain thing that you would like, after seeing the 3-game stretch of like Oregon, Nebraska, Penn State? Is there something that you're keeping your eye on as far as, what Ohio State looks to improve on against Purdue?
Yeah, I mean, I think you don't want to open things up too much, right? Like you don't want to put too much on tape. Like you don't have to get super creative, but I also think like don't step off the gas. Like let's take this Penn State moment. You got 2 weekends where you don't need it, but like
just ride the momentum. Like
yes, ride like let's carry this into the home stretch of IU, the game, Big Ten championship, and the rest of the postseason. It's like I think the worst thing that they could do is have us like, again, probably both wins regardless. Like it's probably, I think we can guarantee the next 2 wins, but like to doubt it, I just want the chemistry to continue to be built on the offensive line. I want the defense to, again, keep things fresh, rotate around, get the, test some things out, but you don't have to, you can save some things for IU and Michigan and
also
and
just
et cetera.
go do your job so that
Yep.
these starters and guys can like get off the field, keep fresh legs, like avoid the stupid, we're only up 10 or up, 13 in the fourth and you still have all of your starters out on the field. Like avoid those kinds of situations, this like lapse of just, thinking the game's won before you've stepped on the field, and give guys a chance to get experience before we go into a gauntlet of, like you said, the Big Ten championship and then having to win 3 straight to win a national title, potentially. Like try and avoid those things, and get some guys some reps and some rest.
Yeah, I think we can skip I think it's like, what, are we going to pick Caleb Downs, Jeremiah Smith, and Will Howard and Cody Simon or JTT? Or
Travion Henderson and Lathan Ransom. Just throw 2 out there so that if it happens, those are my MVPs.
Okay, I'll go Kenyatta and Brandon Ennis.
Ooh, I like it. Damn
it. but yeah, no, I'm excited for Buckeye football. I don't need them to cover the spread to feel good, but again, like let's just get out of there.
Win by 50 and get it's Purdue. Everybody else has seemed to have a pretty easy go at it. So go do the same thing. That's my only ask.
Great. Well, we will be back to recap it and prep for Northwestern. That'll be a fun 20-minute episode next week to talk about how great things went for 5 minutes, and that might be even more than I thought. But either way, thank you everybody for listening, for keeping along with us. We are, again, next couple weeks be a little boring, but we are just about there where it's going to be craziness from end of November until end of January. So very excited to see where the journey takes us. Any final words before we go?
Nope. Like I said, feel good. Happy that we, I guess survived the weekend, and all of our hopes and dreams are in front of us. So let's go achieve them.
Let's do it. Thanks everybody for listening. We'll see you next week.